Welcome to the 9th Annual Intercollegiate Student Symposium. Both Wright College and Oakton Community College have a long history of great books programs, and we've been fortunate enough to be working with Oakton and Harold Washington College these last 9 years. We would like to welcome some people from Oakton Community College, including Linda Corbell, who's the Dean of Languages, Humanities, and the Arts. She's come out to visit. Lynn Ward-Page is Professor Emeritus from Oakton, and she is also the former Great Books Coordinator at Oakton Community College. So welcome to her. Donovan Brode is the current Great Books Coordinator from Oakton Community College. In fact, the member at Oakton. So I'd like to take a moment to also introduce our speakers. From the reverse end there, we have 3 papers that we'll be hearing today on the Great Gatsby. And the first of these speakers is Marbelin Molina. Next to her is Aviana Valdez. And next to her is Luke Kwasny, who's from Oakton. Next to Luke are some other discussion leaders, or some discussion leaders rather, from Oakton Community College. They're Elizabeth Cobb and Rachel Jones and Maria Pondo. And finally, discussion leaders from Wright College include Erica Espinosa and Jarrell Chandler. So let's give a hand to these speakers. Before we begin the program, Professor Rassia Landor of the Humanities Department has generously offered to provide a keynote speech for us, and so I'd like for you to welcome her at this time.
So, welcome, millennial searchers. Although millennials have been defined as young adults born after 1980, for the purpose of this talk, I am defining millennials as people living in the early decades of the 21st century. That includes everybody here. And so then the next question is, what is the definition of searchers? You qualify as a millennial, but do you qualify as a searcher? An article in the New York Times of November 2013 defined millennial searchers as products of the recession, forced to reconsider notions of success not necessarily based on riches, but something else. This article raises the question, what should that something else be? I believe this is the central question of a liberal education. An education that raises questions like, how should we live? What do we value? What should we expect from a wise leader? Who do we know that is wise and would make us wiser? What will help us live a better, truer life? These are questions about what gives our lives meaning. They are raised by that central pillar of education, Socrates. It is Socrates who said, the unexamined life is not worth living. It is Socrates who exhorts us, saying, a person ought only to consider whether in doing anything he is doing right or wrong, acting the part of a good person or a bad. Of course, these statements only lead us to more questions. How do we know whether we are acting rightly or wrongly? What does it mean to examine our lives? What questions should guide our daily lives? Socrates said that he had no answers. His wisdom consisted in knowing that he did not know. But Socrates believed that wisdom could be found in the practice of philosophy, where I proceed to interrogate and examine and cross-examine. Socrates is modeling a kind of education which does not teach technical skills. Pursuing questions about the meaning of life will not give you a technical competence in computer science or nursing or many of the career choices that face you in the 21st century. So the question is, what value do these questions have for us today as millennials? Back to the New York Times article. Social psychologists define meaning as a cognitive and emotional assessment of the degree to which we feel our lives have purpose, value, impact. Although meaning is subjective, signifying different things to different people, a defining feature is connecting to something bigger than the self. People who live meaningful lives feel connected to others, feel connected to work, to a life purpose, and to the world itself. Liberal education is not a substitute for technical preparation for a career. It is rather the prerequisite for the fully lived human life. The power of the big questions about meaning and purpose enhance every choice that we make. Alcibiades, a famous Athenian general, said of Socrates that because of him I have been bitten by something painful, and in the place where a bite is most painful, the heart or mind, or whatever you should call it. I've been struck and bitten by the words of philosophy. These words made me dissatisfied with the slavish quality of my life. The urgent, challenging, but life-enhancing power of these central questions have an impact on all that we do, on the lives that we live in love and in work, and in both the great and quotidian tasks of our lives. We can see the need for such questions in the life of J. Gatsby. It took me a while to get there, but here I am, J. Gatsby. At the end of his life, with his dream of Daisy collapsing around him, Fitzgerald says of him, he must have felt that he had paid a high price for living too long with a single dream. He must have looked up at an unfamiliar sky through frightening leaves and shivered as he found what a grotesque thing a rose is, and how raw the sunlight was upon the scarcely created grass. A new world, material without being real, where poor ghosts, breathing dreams like air, drifted fortuitously about. This is the slavish world that Alcibiades and Socrates have warned against. A material world where the ebb and flow of wealth determines one's value in the world, and in ghost-like relationships without true substance. If only Gatsby had heeded Socrates' advice when he said, "You, my friend, are you not ashamed of heaping up the greatest amount of money and honor and reputation and caring so little about wisdom and truth and the greatest improvement of the soul, which you never regard or heed at all?" These words, spoken 2,000 years ago, apply to Gatsby and to us, the millennial searchers. These are the questions that guide the examined life and the human search for purpose, value, impact. The essence of this experience can perhaps best be summarized by the questions of another great teacher, Rabbi Hillel. If I am not for myself, then who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, then what am I? And if not now, when?
Thank you, Professor Landor. So our first student paper is from Marbelin Molina. The title of her paper is Women in the Great Gatsby. Hold the microphone close to you.
F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, is about the wealth and power of those who have old money and those who attempt to rise to the top. It also depicts women in the modern era society, but denies any respect toward them. Although the women in the novel are portrayed as strong individuals, they are simultaneously viewed as powerless and weak in their society. The women of The Great Gatsby are considered unworthy. Their lack of power in society is represented in their obedience to the men. Whenever women are described, they are presented as childish and weak as compared to the men who are looked upon as superior. As one of Gatsby's parties is coming to an end, Nick describes the women's actions as puppyish and playful, signifying the childish acts of the women and demonstrating the conformity to look for safety in the men. The women tempt the men by flaunting themselves to them, which allow the women to feel empowered. However, the power they have is diluted because of the control the men ultimately have over them. The women are neglected in any importance in their society, only to respect their men and give them affection. As Francis Kerr states that Fitzgerald has said once before, all wise women conform to their man's lead. The common trait of women in this novel is their obedience to their lover or husband. They follow their leads, demonstrating how naive the women are, and how they allow the men to think for them. However, although the women of the novel are weak and irrelevant to the work of the men, they are loyal to the money that they hold. Daisy's character is an example of a woman who thrives on the wealth of men. By denying Tom's faults, she demonstrates money's power over her. Furthermore, Daisy's loyalty to Tom represents the lack of her own power. She allows herself to be disrespected by him because of his money. Daisy's statement, "And I hope she'll be a fool, that's the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool," signifies that she believes that as a woman she holds a certain amount of power over men, and it is through fooling them. However, acting as a fool does not improve the opinions of men. It simply proves women's weakness to them. Daisy avoids the elephant in the room, Tom's cheating, demonstrates her insignificance to Tom, since she is easily replaced by another. As Leland S. Petersen notes, she seems able to transform the material world into some ephemeral dreamland in which objects suddenly grow with symbolic meaning. Daisy's ignorance can be viewed as innocent, but she deliberately gives Tom the power to betray her, which demonstrates her own weakness. Tom has the privilege to do as he pleases, no matter how embarrassed Daisy feels, because she does not stand up for herself, which is why Tom can't control her. The moment Tom begins to feel threatened by Gatsby, everything changes. Daisy has to choose, and she is viewed as the initial betrayer. Her supposed unawareness of Tom's affair is betrayed once she runs over Myrtle. She no longer can pretend to not know what is going on, which demonstrates her weakness because she loses herself in the moment she is forced to face the consequences. Tom's intervention in placing the blame on Gatsby further showed Daisy's powerlessness. She cannot decide for herself or even face her mistakes without the help of Tom. She speaks about the way society is supposed to look at women, but she neglects the fact that through Tom's well-known infidelity, society forms an opinion of her. Daisy seems as if she is in control, but her powerlessness is demonstrated by her doing exactly what Tom asks of her. Despite the power Daisy believes she holds, she gives Tom the benefit of the doubt, when she should be setting an example for her daughter. Similarly, Jordan Baker's actions seem independent, but she relies on her faults to achieve what she wants, indicating her weakness. Jordan's independence throughout the novel suggests an initial strength, but the secret of her cheating shows her weakness. Jordan, unlike the other women of the novel, is an athlete. She separates herself from the stereotype of women being simply pretty and fragile, and accepting that men are superior to them. Even though she seems proud, she is believed to have cheated at her golfing tournament. This contributes to her weakness. In order for her to be successful, she may have had to lie and cheat. The fact that she does not deny the accusations of her cheating shows her weakness as an athlete, because she is not putting her best forth. She thereby proves to her society that women are incapable of masculine activities. As J.S. Westbrook states, the golden arms of Jordan Baker are not simply those of a healthy girl who spends her afternoons on fairways, but of a girl whose wealth is laced with dishonesty. Jordan's strong personality is her way of hiding her weakness, which is her secret. She appears independent only because of her career, but without the status of a woman golfer, she would be similar to Daisy, because she would have to rely on someone else to help her with her success, rather than being independent. Finally, Jordan's independence comes from her career, but her cheating can signify a lack of power, proving that men are superior to her. Even though it seems as though society forces the women of the Great Gatsby into their positions, they have the strength and ability to stand up for themselves. Instead, they choose to be powerless and be controlled by the men. They are viewed as delicate creatures that need the care of men.